Kamer, Connor,
Here.
Baylor,
Here.
Mosley.
Here.
All committee members are present except for Councilman Kamer.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the previously held meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Very good, the ayes have it. With that, we'll now move on to the regular agenda. We have two items that are up for public hearing today. The procedures for the public hearings will be, we will have a representative from the planning department provide a description of the conditional use requests, a report, if you will. After that report is over, we will then ask our clerk of council, Sarah Viviano, to swear in any individuals that wish to speak before the committee. After that, we will then open up the public hearing and we'll give folks an opportunity to speak to the committee and to council members that may be attending. After that, we'll close the public hearing up. We'll then have an opportunity to ask questions. After that, we'll repeat the process this evening. The only difference is that we will make a recommendation to all of council, either in favor, against, or to table an item and to take time. So those are the procedures that we're going to be following, kind of like the ground rules. And with that, Sarah Viviano, could you please read in the first item that's up for public hearing today? Thanks.
The first item up for public hearing is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an outdoor advertising display on the east side of Sumner Street, south of I-76, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Joanna House, Inc. is the owner of property located at the northeast corner of East South Street and Sumner Street. Kenjo Outdoor Advertising is requesting permission to place an outdoor advertising display, a billboard, to a height of 75 feet on the northern limits of this property. The double-sided V-shaped billboard would have digital display panels, each measuring 16 feet in width by 25 feet in height for 400 square feet of area, and would be supported by a stepped steel monopole column. The structure would reach an overall height of 75 feet. The digital display would include automatic brightness adjustment, and the petitioner submitted a lighting study indicating that the display would comply with national lighting requirements as set forth by the International Sign Association and Outdoor Advertising Association of America. The zoning code establishes the development guidelines for advertising displays permitted as a conditional use, and this proposal meets most of the requirements. The zoning code calls for a minimum distance of 1,000 feet between outdoor advertising displays. However, a small poster-sized display is located approximately 750 feet to the east. In addition, the surface area of an advertising display located in a retail business use district is limited to 300 square feet. The proposed display at 400 square feet is 33% larger, although it is smaller than other digital billboard faces along our expressways, which are at 672 square feet. The proposed height would be consistent with several recently approved displays to the next higher district. Additionally, it would allow better visibility over the nearby pedestrian bridge. The proposed digital advertising display is along a heavily traveled length of highway, which is currently undergoing improvements. At a height of 75 feet and faces of 400 square feet, oriented toward the highway, the billboard should not impose on neighboring uses and should contribute to a vibrant business environment by providing an efficient means for local businesses to communicate with consumers. The planning staff and planning commission recommend approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. With that, we'll ask if there's anyone here wishing to testify before the committee today. Please stand up and be sworn in by Sarah Biviano, our clerk of council.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks. With that, we'll now open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this proposed conditional use. If you could please provide for us your name and address.
My name is Dan Nielsen. I'm 928 Haverhill Drive in Troy, Ohio. Just here today to hopefully say thank you guys, and thanks Mike for reading that proposal. Hey, for any questions, but we have 2 other signs in town. We've done pretty well with them. I think last meeting I talked about some of the businesses, the local businesses that we've, done business with. I'm not going to stand here and list them all, but we've done pretty well in Akron. It's a great town for us, and we think this location right along I-76, obviously very high traffic, is a appropriate location for us. And thank you, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor or against this proposal? The conditional use request on the east side of Sumner Street, south of I-76. Anyone else? Anyone? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing portion and open it up to any committee members that may have questions. Any committee members? I see Ms. Mosley's hand is up.
Thank you, Chairman Fusco. Mike, this question is for you. Have you received any objections from any of the residents in the surrounding neighborhood?
I have not, actually.
Oh, okay. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from anyone? I'm not seeing or hearing anyone. So therefore, again, you're welcome to come back. Thank you for coming this afternoon. Welcome to come back tonight at 7 o'clock, and the committee will make a recommendation to all of council. Thank you. Take care. Next item is up for public hearing. Sir Biviano, please.
It's an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a Type A daycare business center at 493 South Canton Road and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. Angela Anderson is requesting permission to establish a child daycare business center at this location. The proposed daycare center would occupy the entire structure of an approximately 2,552 square foot office building with an estimated 50 full-time or part-time children. The lessee intends to hire an estimated 8 to 10 staff members in total. The site was formerly used as a medical office space until 2021. There will be no overnight stays. An outdoor play area would be situated along the east side of the parcel, away from the building by removing some of the parking spaces. Petitioner intends to fence in the play area and install playground equipment as well as ground cover. The property currently contains an asphalt driveway with 25 off-street parking spaces. The updating and reuse of the former office space should not have a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood. Instead, it will reutilize the former office building, which was the Summit County Library branch building several years ago, by providing quality daycare services that are beneficial to the entire city and will continue to serve a need within the community. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval subject to the conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Antonucci, at this time, we'll ask if there's anybody here wishing to speak to the committee. If you could please stand and be sworn in by Sir Viviano, our clerk of council. Thanks.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll now open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this conditional use. If you could please provide us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Angela Anderson. My address is 1283 Andress Street. I've been in the child care industry for over 20 years, and it's just always been a passion of mine to provide that high quality child care for our children in our community. So we're just hoping that we are able to pass, if you will, to do that. And I also wanted to make sure that there was 2 variances I think that we needed to, I'm not sure if it was said, but we would need to put a ramp in on the side of the building. And then also there was something about the property line. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
So
the handicap access, is that what you're speaking to?
Yes.
Would that be on the south side, the driveway side, or the opposite side?
I think it's on the opposite side. It's not in the driveway. It won't be.
Okay, yeah, it does look kind of tight.
It's like on the very side of the building.
That's a good question. So in order to put that up, it's probably going to be within, Mike, do you have?
Yeah, we can, we'll have a plan actually, we do have a plan in the file that shows that, and that's really the plan that we're looking at for the ordinance. Okay. It is in the side, but we can accommodate that through, reasonable accommodation for handicap accessibility.
Okay, do you have
Yeah.
a copy of that for,
Yeah, I have that in the file.
okay. Yeah, we'll make sure you get a copy of that after the meeting.
Yeah, the petitioner did submit that.
Yeah,
so-
okay. Yeah, you should be okay, though.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak to the committee in favor or against? Anyone online? I don't think there is.
We didn't have anyone sign up online, Mr. Chair.
Very good. With that, then, what we'll do is close the public hearing. Again, ask you if you'd like to come this evening and present to council, and we're going to make a recommendation. Thanks. Anyone else wishing to speak? Nothing? Okay. Now we'll move on to the balance of the agenda. Going to recommend time on the regular list of legislation. Short of any concerns or questions, we'll move into the new list of legislation. I believe item number 2 is our first, no, I'm sorry, 4. On the new list of legislation, Sir Viviano, if you could, please, thank you.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Board of Education of the Akron Public School District for the Community Learning Center's Akron After-School Program in order to provide learning enrichment activities and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Volman is here for this.
Yes, hi, thank you. You know, as you know, we annually have done a contract with the Akron Public Schools to assist with their after-school program. This is that legislation, again, it's the same amount that it's been in previous years. We had circulated, I hope that people have gotten the information on the use, you know, how many kids are using the program and the metrics that have come from participants. We have Desiree Bolden here as well, who is happy to answer any questions you have about the program.
Made copies for us. Can you ask her if she has them made? The copies, she made copies. I believe in the back they made copies for us as part of this piece, so you could ask. Thank you. Okay, anything else, sir?
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bolden, if you'd like to say a few words. We spoke before the meeting, I know, and you are obviously always welcome here, so.
Thank you. I'm Desiree Bolden, representing Akron Public Schools, 10 North Main Street. We do have some copies for you if you didn't get the links that we sent out. And then my copy is the one that's being used to make copies, so I'm just going to go off. What we have is a 5-year timeline that we showed the concerted effort that we've done to help our kids in Akron After School, particularly our intensive and targeted students, those that are the most academically behind. So in those reports, you'll see the work that we've done with the help of the city dollars to help our Title I dollars, but also our 21st century dollars. What I'd like to call your attention to when you see the numbers that we served last year was our highest numbers ever in our elementary K through 5 is about 2,400 students. That was with the help of ESSER dollars to push that forward. Our goal, about 2,300 this year, we are pushing with the help of, we got 3 new 21st century grants this year, yay. It's a 5-year spread of 1.5 million, so that helped pick up some of the deficit from the ESSER dollars. So we're stretching our dollars to support the same that we did last year. I also want to make mention that Akron After School is part of the College and Career Academies department. And here today is my boss, so only good things can be said. Marcy Ebright, Director of College and Career Academies, and then of course Karen Moore, my longtime extended learning coordinator, is with us, but Marcy's new to us in this, so only good things, right? Mr. Fusco?
Always.
So what's really important, though, about the College and Career Academy lens is Akron Public Schools is being transformed with College and Career Academies.
Yes.
We've started at the high school level, we've moved into the middle school level, and now next on the plate is the elementary transformation. Akron After School is a great fit before the school day, after the school day, and then the College Career Academy transformation. So we have great things. Wow. I don't know. I'm starting to sense a great amount of power here. I don't know.
There was, yeah. That takes a lot of talent to be able to echo just one and not over and over and over.
Right?
So that's very
I'm afraid to talk.
impressive.
So I know there's a lot of information. What I wanted to make sure that you know is that we are very diligent about evaluating our work. So you'll see a whole section on evaluation. You'll see that we evaluate the classroom instruction, which is an intervention. Our classes are small, which is what, obviously costs a lot. We keep our kids, 10 kids to a classroom. So we have the pre and post there. Then we also have the district assessment, our iReady, 3 times a year. So we really track kids moving fall to winter. What impact are we having? What adjustments do we need made? And we don't pick everything to help our kids academically. We pick the top 3 things that are the most deficits that we're trying to move kids in. And then, of course, we have our Ohio State tests, the OSTs, that also measure grades 3 through 5 on impact. So we're moving kids as much as we can to be on level or get close to them. But so academics, I'll leave you with this, it's not the only goal. It is the big goal, but the sense of community, attachment to the school. We have a high chronic absentee percentage in our schools. Getting kids connected to something after school keeps them coming during the day. And then fostering support for families, that there's a safe place for kids to go after school.
It's very good work. And thank you. We had received, I believe last week, Sean had forwarded the information packets that they're making copies for right now. So we'll make sure everyone gets a copy of it, but I am pretty sure we all received an email last week with all that information in it. We'll make sure everybody gets a copy. So before we ask for a vote, I see Linda Mobian's hand is up. Ms. Mobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Desiree, I guess there's nothing but good things to talk about over the years, and we certainly thank you for your work. The question I have is that now that we have these college and career academies in school buildings, and I am sure that there's I know tracking can be viewed as a negative word, but the children that have participated in these after-school program supportive and remediation services, I'm just curious as to how many do we know that are progressing well beyond where they're being tutored at that level?
Thank you, Ms. Zumbi.
Thank you, Ms. Zumbi.
Of course is.
Linda is fine. Don't worry about the Mobian part.
Thank you,
Go
Linda.
ahead. Thank you, Linda.
I'm more worried about the feedback that I'm getting, but I'll continue on, is the following students by grade level, but following them, as I said before, we track during the school year where they are. So I'm going to use a 3rd grader as an example. Any 3rd grade Akron After School student that's with us, we have their incoming data, and then we look at how we're affecting them right there in the classroom. So that teacher has feedback pre and post, and then we look at where they fall in the district assessment on the iReady. So that's 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring. Then in that report, that evaluation report that you see, you'll see that we moved kids out of the intensive bucket into the targeted bucket. We actually surpassed our goal, and you will see that tracking. So your question is long-term, and so what we have in our e-school system, and I know, Linda, you're familiar with that, is how many kids participated in our out-of-school time, summer, school year, and that portfolio goes with them. We are now in the middle of designing and Marcy is here being the director of pulling that portfolio per student. We have just this year developed a system to track kids on all the things that they do out of school time, including Akron After School, including summer, to see the impact that we're doing on kids. So we'll have a longitudinal report that'll be coming out soon. Does that help? Does that answer your question?
I think it does, but I think what's going to be helpful as we move into, I know there's a lot of talk about a levy, and if we are going to be successful, I think we're going to need to talk about all of these supports that we're putting in place and to show how these supports are moving our children along. Because these test scores that we get from the state are never going to tell the true story of what's happening in the district. So that's why I asked the question. If we can kind of show people, this is where the child was, and these are all the supports these children are getting. And I don't know if there's a way to put them in buckets to help people understand how they're progressing with the supports they're getting. But no, I really appreciate the work that you've been doing for us for over a number of years. And I know that as a city, we all have to work together because these are all of our children. So I thank you for that. But that's the kind of stuff I think we're going to have to really try to figure out. How do we impart that information to the public to help them understand why we continue to need resources?
Right, duly noted.
Duly noted.
Very good.
Very good.
I guess I have it.
Yes, I have it.
Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Desiree, if you can help me out, I noticed that these dollars are targeting third grade reading initiative, K through 5. Do we also, is there a separate pot of funds when you come before us to help with high school age? Because my question is, with our after school funding, I want to know how is this coordinated with the city's effort to reduce youth gun violence and youth violence out in the community? Are we working in collaboration with those groups? Are they a part of having access to the building at the same time to coordinate what the schools are doing and what the community is doing?
Yes is the short answer, but let me unpack that a little bit for you. The expanded learning team that's now part of the College and Career Academies that is leading the work in the district we have the elementary, Akron After School's been the staunch foundational level of that. Our ESSER dollars allowed us to open up into secondary, but that expanded learning is working in conjunction with the out-of-school time initiative that's happening with SEI and the United Way, and it's now called Youth Success Summit. Thank you. And so there are concerted meetings and developments and collaborations that are going on with that to meet the needs of the community and in conjunction with the city to address exactly what you said.
Okay. So like the city funded certain youth organizations. Are they a part of that initiative? Is their work being coordinated with what the school system is doing so that we're using the same type of metrics to see our outcomes?
Yes, I'm getting the yes from Marcy Ebright.
Okay, thank you. If we can get a report on how that works, especially for each one of the clusters, so we can see how these groups are working with after school, because one of the challenges is getting access to the building. That'll give us idea. If they're already plugged in, then they should have access. Maybe it's just a matter of coordinating the building administrators with their staff people so that we make sure that those who should be in the building are actually in the building and that they're coordinating with the different clusters.
Yes, and yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very good. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion. We put this on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Very good. The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Next item, number 5. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract or contracts for transportation planning services in order to carry out the intent and purpose of programs under the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2024, and in order to further the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Studies AMAT's goals and objectives of maintaining a cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in the Akron metropolitan area and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Ms. Viviano.
Good afternoon. I am Heather Reidel, and I'm a mobility planner with AMATS. As a reminder, AMATS is the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for the Akron area, funded primarily through Federal Highway Administration funds. As the Akron area MPO, AMATS serves all of Summit and Portage counties and parts of Wayne County. The city of Akron acts as AMATS' fiscal agent. This legislation is a renewal that allows the planning director and AMATS to enter into contracts for calendar year 2024. There is no cost to the city. This is 100% federally funded. Specifically, this legislation will allow AMATS to hire a firm to conduct a regional traffic signal inventory, collecting all relevant data of every traffic signal in the AMATS region. Additionally, AMATS plans to award 2 Connecting Communities planning grants in 2024. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Heather, is this, are you in a rush for this?
No.
Or okay, very good. Secondly, this contract encompasses the entire area, or is this just the Akron portion?
No, this is for all of AMAT's funded
Okay.
region, which is all of Summit, all of Portage, and parts of Wayne.
And this is 100% federal funds?
Yes,
We're passing through.
correct.
Okay, very good. I thought all that was accurate, but wanted to verify. Questions or comments from any committee members, council members? Is it a recommendation for consent agenda? Oh, Ms. Amobian has her hand up.
Thank you very much. Just a quick question. Even though the funds come directly from the federal government, we do have input into if we have some needs in the city of Akron pertaining to these these grants will cover. We can just voice those to AMATS.
I think what you're asking is whether or not the city of Akron has a say in how our projects are awarded or our grants are given out. Yes, so we have a policy committee, and the city of Akron is one of the many voices at that table.
So there's someone who is representing that area. Would that be?
We've had
Mr.
Michelle DeFiore at our meetings.
Okay.
Trying to think who else goes to our meetings.
So if we want to talk specifically about the areas that are being covered, we can talk with her about that.
Sure,
Pertaining
yes,
to-
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very good, thank you. Further questions or comments? Is there a recommendation for consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Very good, thank you, Heather, for
Thank
coming
you.
down. Thank you for keeping us safe, everyone at AMATS. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is an ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Firestone Park urban redevelopment area to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
Yes, sir.
Solomon.
Yeah, so we're getting to the end of the year, so it's we're bringing in our annual TIF legislation. This one specifically comes from a development agreement from 2019, under which Bridgestone built their new tire manufacturing facility on Firestone and Wilbeth. The TIF was part of the development agreement. Now we need to pass the legislation.
Very good. Questions or comments? Is consent agenda okay on this item?
Yes, and all three would be fine.
Okay, very good. Questions, comments? Is there a recommendation for consent agenda?
Motion for consent.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is an ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Great Streets Akron Initiative area to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
And this is very, very similar, but this is with Canal Place, and it's for the Goodrich development.
We're on 7. This is the Great Streets?
Oh, well, I had this, okay, this is Kenmore then. I have it in a different order on my sheet. This is Kenmore Boulevard. We did a development agreement in 2019 for the building at 975 Kenmore Boulevard. This is where the Serena Tea House
Yes.
is currently located. But other than that, it's same. It's a TIF.
Very good. I assume, okay. Is there a recommendation for consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Excuse me, the ayes have it. Number 8, Ms. Viviano.
Number 8 is an ordinance declaring certain improvements to real property located in the Exchange Street Opportunity Park Urban Renewal District to be a public purpose and exempt from real property taxation, providing for the collection of service payments in lieu of taxes and the deposit of those service payments in the appropriate fund, providing for the payment of a portion of the service payments to the Akron Public School District, all pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5709.41 to 5709.43, the Act, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Villeman?
Yeah, I gave a little heads up on this one. This is the Goodrich development at Canal Place.
Very good. All those, is there a motion for consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Very good, the ayes have it. And
Thank
with
you.
that, we are now adjourned. Thank you. Ms. Viviano?
Our next committee today will be the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Freeman, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Malik. Again, that's the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
What were you doing there?
We forgot to meet somebody there because I'll check on the we're running the hall for our family Christmas party. And so I just put on the Poly Festival, and then the 7 o'clock. May tip off.
All right, the time is 2 p.m. I'd like to call the excuse me, Rules Committee meeting to order. If we could have, please, a roll call.
Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Omobian. I think this may be her joining the meeting now.
Okay.
Connor.
Aye.
And Malik.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
All right. I will say, I think we had two folks that were coming down to speak today. We're not having public comments. I apologize that wasn't relayed to you. Part of that falls on me. Councilman Neal had called me Friday. I saw the call this morning. My apology. However, just hang around a couple more minutes. I'll kind of give you an idea of what we hope to do. We want to take a week with this, and then would like to talk some next week. But we'll proceed here, and I need first to have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, please allow me to read in the resolution. This is from Councilman Neal and Councilwoman Mosley. This is a resolution expressing sympathy for the innocent civilians victimized by the war in Israel and Palestine, condemning violence of any kind, affirming Akron's status as a welcoming community for those of the Jewish and Islamic regions and any other religion, encouraging residents to offer support and sincere condolences to members of the Jewish and Palestinian communities of Akron and all over the world, and declaring an emergency. So I've asked Mr. Neal, as one of the sponsors, and Ms. Mosley, I've not been able to speak to you yet, but as one of the sponsors, if you would please speak to us. I'm hoping we can sit with this for a week. And Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution came in on behalf of members of the Palestinian community and the community at large. We understand that on October 7th, what took place, the attack that took the lives of many of the Israeli community, and a resolution came in regarding that attack. I think part of the thing that got us where we are now is that between the 7th and the 13th, when we looked at that resolution, there was also a great loss of life, and continues to be a great loss of life amongst those of the Palestinian community. At that time, I think we all can say that we should have took time to take pause so that the resolution that came in was more balanced and acknowledged the loss of life of both communities. And let me say this here, because this resolution, much discussion has taken place, like I said, amongst the members of the Palestinian community at large, as well as with their brothers and sisters from the Jewish community. Dialogue is taking place. And I'm saying that because I'm going to use the word Palestinian and Jewish. I may use Palestinian, Israeli, Jewish, and Islamic. But I want us to get away from that. Because when we use terms like to define one by their nationality or their faith, their political party, subconsciously what we do is we place a value on people. And that value makes it easy for us to discount listening to certain people or not listening to certain people, addressing certain people's needs or not addressing certain people's needs, not just with this resolution, but even with just the domestic issues that we have here in this city. So I'm going to use it a little bit more as I use this resolution, but in my conversation, I appreciate those from both communities that I've had a chance to talk to, that I've had a chance to learn from. But you know, when I listen to the media, even when I listen to myself, it makes it easy to distance yourself when you use something that classifies it as them. Because of their different religion, different nationality, it's easy to classify it as them. But what's taking place right now, let's strip away the titles and just look at the humanity and the lack thereof of this issue. Now, I can understand if some people want to learn more about this resolution. Those who are behind it are here to share that information. But every hour and minutes within that hour, lives are being lost. Every hour. I was told this morning that 400 babies died because there's no power in the hospitals. Don't look at this as a Israeli or Palestinian. I was guilty of it. Because, hey, we got a lot of stuff to deal with right here in this city. But look at it as just a humanity issue. We can't distance ourselves from that. So, the resolution pretty much speaks for itself. If there's questions, I think those who were a part of drafting this resolution can best speak to it. Many days were spent drafting this, conversations amongst, like I said, members in the community. But just to point out the resolution, the first part speaks directly to the UN. 120 countries voted in favor of the UN resolution. 45 abstained, 14 voted against. We talk about collaboration and inclusion in this city. On the global community, that's the UN. That's the UN. The rest of the resolution pretty much models the first one. It says, whereas since October 7th, more than 12,000 people, not Israeli, not Palestinian, people, and more than 4,000 of which are children, have been killed. And that's when we drafted this resolution. It's more now. Because of violence, and more than 1 million persons have been displaced. And it says, whereas the citizens of Akron wish to decry any and all acts of violence in the Middle East and express their deepest condolences to all those affected by this tragedy. And whereas the city of Akron is committed to encouraging and uplifting both the Akron Palestinian and Jewish communities and their communities at large. Now there be it resolved by the Council of the City of Akron, Section 1, that the City of Akron hereby expresses sympathy for the civilian lives and all those affected by the horrific violence and war. All those affected. That the City of Akron hereby decries all horrific acts of violence committed against civilians of any kind. Have I read anything that we have opposition to? That the City of Akron hereby affirms Akron's status as a welcoming community for those of the Jewish and Islamic faith and any other religion, and encourages Akron residents to offer support and condolences to the members of the Palestinian and Jewish communities. Is there any problem with anything that's been read thus far? Section 4, the City of Akron urges for an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian corridors in Gaza with immediate delivery of water, medical supplies, fuel, and food. Is there any problem with anything that's been read thus far? Excuse me, is there any problem with anything that's been read thus far that needs more explanation? Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm not done. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman,
could you
excuse me,
turn
please.
your microphone on, please, Mr. Chair?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. That's rude.
Well, no, it's called rules.
No,
not
Mr.
rude.
Chairman, that is rude.
Rules.
That is rude.
I'm going to ask Ms. Mosley, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Continue on to what Mr. Neal stated. This is about us saying that we are a welcoming community. I believe Mr. Neal left off at section 5, so I will continue from there. Section 5, that the city of Akron urges all to abide by international law and to immediately end the illegal occupation of the Palestinian people and the illegal settlements on occupied land. The failure to abide by international law should cause the city of Akron to reassess its relationships with the occupying state. Section 6, this resolution is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the immediate preservation of public peace, health, safety, and welfare for the reason that is immediately necessary for this council to express its support for victims of the war in Israel and Palestine, and provided that this resolution receives the affirmative vote of 2/3 of its members elected or appointed to council, it shall take effect and be in force immediately upon its passage and approval by the mayor. Otherwise, it shall take effect and be enforced at the earliest time allowed by law. I also want to add that, it's been 36 days since this conflict war has begun. And in that time, I think we all have been given a crash course on just a snapshot of the history. There's a history that many of us around this horseshoe, I want to say most of us, are just becoming aware of. But the human being in us should have empathy for what is going on in this conflict and how many children, parents, grandparents, elders have been killed. I echo everything that my colleague has stated. I think the only reason that we should even let it sit for a week is to give those individuals from each community an opportunity to speak, since they weren't allowed to speak this afternoon, to be able to speak to the issues and give context to this conflict and how it is affecting them here in the city of Akron, because many of them have families on either in Israel or in Gaza. So I think it's important that they're given an opportunity to speak to that. So I appreciate it having a pause for a week, but I think we need to move on it because we're just urging, this is a resolution. We want to be a part of stating that there needs to be a ceasefire. I'm not sure if anyone has been paying attention. Men lie, women lie, the videos don't lie, and the videos are telling what is going on in there. I saw a video this morning, bodies decomposing at hospitals because they have no way to bury individuals, which in some contexts it's a violation of their faith. Children pulling fish out of the rivers so they can eat, and then the next day all the boats being caught on fire. Like, this is the reality of what is going on, and like myself, I'm getting a crash course, but the humanity part in all of us should say these are the kind of resolutions that we as an elected body should be supporting. So we can send a message not only to other municipalities and to the state and to our federal government that we are all paying attention. So I rise in support I hope that this body does the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Now come first to committee members, and then we'll go to any other members of council that would like to add comments or ask questions. Have anyone? Mr. Malik?
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask if Councilman Neal could be allowed to complete the point that he was making.
Okay, let me go through for the sake of our rules, let me go through everybody that has a chance to speak, and then we'll come back to Mr. Neal.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? I don't think I'm missing anyone. Okay, now we'll come back to you, Mr. Neal.
Thank you. The point I would like to make is, again, this resolution is not a knee-jerk reaction to the first. This resolution is a call to the immediate need in Gaza, in that region. Immediate need. I know that and I appreciate the openness of those who have shared their concern from the Jewish community with portions of this resolution. But if you remember when we talked, we said there is a lot of learning that we have to do, and that can take place as we continue to dialogue. But I want to ask this body, I went line by line and I asked, where is their concern in the resolution so that it can be addressed? The members of the Palestinian community, Islamic community who helped draft this resolution are here to answer those questions. All of the data support documentation is in the resolution. So I will ask again of this committee, where is the concern so those concerns can be addressed?
Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the discussion that we're having. I know that this has been a difficult subject that we have dealt with for the past month. I appreciate the work of Councilman Neal and people in the audience who have worked to put together this resolution. I share the view that we need to speak about the humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza and about the significant civilian loss of life and about the urgent need for the Israeli government to abide by obligations under the laws of war and for there to be a solution, a resolution of the current conflict. I also think that as we're discussing this, that the most important thing in my mind is that we as City Council are very clear in speaking to both the Palestinian community here in Akron and in the Akron area, as well as the Jewish community here in the Akron area, because in the conversations I have had, I have experienced a lot of trauma that people are dealing with, and I don't use that word lightly or like it's a, sometimes we can kind of speak to it as if there's nothing that we can say that's going to heal the pain that people are feeling. And it's not just people who are more proximate to it, but really all of us who are watching videos on a daily basis and hearing stories about, just today, the Al-Shifa Hospital and kids who are, no longer babies who are no longer in incubators. And so there is a tremendous amount of trauma, and I think our first responsibility in this community is to extend our sympathy and our care for people in our own community who are suffering. And also to recognize the anti-Palestinian rhetoric, anti-Muslim rhetoric, and anti-Semitic rhetoric that we have seen a rise of over the past month in this country. The third thing I would say is where I do differ from my colleague. The place in conversation with a number of folks, including reading it myself, I do think that Section 5 of the resolution goes too far in the sense that when it talks about an immediate end to the occupation and the references to the occupying state, it really is suggesting that one side is really solely responsible for a 75-year conflict. And I think that as we talk about the history, that there is not a consensus in this community around that language. And I think we would be mistaken to approve this resolution with that language in it. I think it would not be something that reflects a consensus across our entire community. And I recognize that I myself believe that the occupation needs to end. But the way in which it is worded, I think, could be seen by many to be one-sided. And so as I read it, that's my perception. But as I said before, I do believe that we have an obligation to speak to the situation that is going on in Gaza and to speak with moral clarity. So that is my perspective, and I would urge this committee and this council to work over the next week with all of the people in the audience, with people who are not in the audience as well, and try to craft something that this entire body would feel comfortable passing next Monday.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you,
If I may?
Yes, sir.
Again, as I stated, this resolution was a collaboration working with the community. We had discussion about Section 5. But members of the Palestinian community felt strongly about that. Because, to be quite frank, it was stated that the city of Akron can urge all to abide by international law. If you understand international law, that will address that issue. If that is a concern of this body, and I appreciate you sharing with me your concern, I'm still waiting to hear from others. If the members of the Palestinian community could speak to that. Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Can Dr. Jadala?
Mr. Neal, if you could have contacted me and let me know about this.
Mr. Freeman, I did contact you. I've got the phone calls, I've got the text.
You left a message on my phone.
I've got the phone calls.
Emailed me.
My Christian brother, my Christian brother.
To you, gentlemen.
My Christian brother, I did contact you. Do you want to lie here on this floor?
Thank you. Okay, and you're going to have that opportunity next week. I would have never let anyone speak the first time on this when it came in the first time.
My Christian brother.
Are you through, Mr. Neal?
No, sir, I'm not. Mr. Freeman, you know I sent you information. I communicated. I've got the text where we've communicated. Dr. Jadala, I would allow you, but unfortunately, he's the chairperson.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our rules state, though, that have to come through the chairman. I'm sorry, but even if I would have picked up that request Friday, I said, no, we need to let this simmer for a week and get some clarity. And that would have been my answer. So I'm sorry that it was communicated that, yes, you can speak today. I'm sorry for that. Okay. Okay. Once again, I've just asked if we could, next week, I promise you, comments, you'll be allowed to offer comments next week. I give you my word on that. So I will give you my word on that.
without consideration of other parties involved. I think this is not something against
And the very reason I asked for a week is that we probably should have taken time before. So, Dr. Jadala, I'm going to have to stop right now, okay? Thank you. I have to stop right now. So, is there any kind of motion?
Mr. Chair, there are 2 hands raised from council members online.
Okay. Who's that? Okay, Ms. Amobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just very emotional, to be honest with you. It's been a very challenging experience. As a person of color who's experienced so much in this country, when I watch what's going on across both of these religious groups, it breaks my heart. I have seen students, Israeli students, who are talking about all kinds of treatment that they're experiencing in this country. I have listened to the Palestinians talk about what's happening to them in this country and overseas. I can only tell you that I appreciate the council persons coming in with the legislation, trying to strike a balance. And I know it's very difficult. Not only difficult because we're talking about human beings that we are watching on television on both sides that are being just devastated with this kind of violence. And I don't have the answer, and I'm sure we don't as a group either. I can only tell you that it is terribly disturbing that we're at this point. I wish we could have taken time on the other legislation that we passed, and if we could have had a more balanced approach to our concern, because I know we're concerned about all peoples and not just one side. It's so unfortunate what happened on October the 7th. But then when you hear about the history, and I truly don't claim to know all the history, all I know is that people are being terribly impacted, and to watch, the families that just don't have the resources they need to even get out of the violence, and they're trying to remove themselves. So I can only say that I appreciate us taking time so that we can further discuss this and talk about it. And I too have talked to a few people, not many, and I certainly haven't done what the council persons have done, but it's just been quite disturbing as a council person and as just a human being to watch all of this unfold before our eyes. So I appreciate them bringing in the humanitarian aspect of this conflict. We just have to figure out how do we word it in such a way that we create a balance so that we're reflective of all peoples. And I know that's what we're trying to do. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Ms. Somerville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank all of those who put in a lot of hard work to pull together this resolution. Councilman Neal asked the question as he was reading through, were there any parts of this particular resolution that we objected to? And I have to be very honest, I voted on the very first resolution and I did not see any objection. Right. And it really was not until members from the community came down before council and they educated me. So I want to thank those that have done that. And I think that we have a real opportunity to do something that was not done originally that should have been done. And that was to take time and to make sure that all voices were heard. And so I do want to say I am in support of creating a meaningful resolution where all voices can be heard, and something that is really reflective of Akron and of Akron being a welcoming city. So I just want to thank again Councilman Neal, Councilwoman Mosley for bringing this forth, and everyone who is there in the chambers who has worked hard. we want to make sure that we get it right this time around. And so I just want to say I am in full support and want to make sure that we take time so that we can get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Somerville. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Fusco?
Yes, thank you. I would like to stand up and say that I made a mistake in terms of recommending that we go ahead and move forward with that night. However, I will say this, that I was approached by many and talked to, not many, but people that I know real well and their families, literally, the attack happened in their family's area, in their neighborhood, and they were so thankful that they were passed, but friends and family did not suspect anything whatsoever, and this attack occurred. And so with that, I think a lot of emotions, obviously, you know, from the area that was attacked, was heightened. But in terms of a lot of this, I mean, it hits on every point that basically was in the first one. In terms of Akron's empathy toward, you know, what had happened altogether, in terms of our welcoming peace. But now we have an opportunity, and I think we all recognize here that we should have maybe taken a little bit more time, we should have studied more, we should have educated more, and that's what we're simply asking for with this, is to have some time and have some conversations and learn more. In terms of being a city council representative, it's you're almost asked to be an expert at everything. It's an amazing job in terms of what you get access to, what you can learn about, to educate yourself before a vote. And there's been situations, I believe, whenever Ukraine was attacked, we had a resolution, probably voted on it real quickly like that. But I'm hoping the next week or so, we will have more conversation. We will learn more. And I can't answer if we're going to be in a position to vote or not next week, but I do appreciate the effort that was put in. But we have more work to do, and we just like to do that work. Thank you. With that, I'd like to recommend that
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. I was going to make a recommendation. I thought I had the mic. I was just going to recommend that we refer this item for next week.
Mr. Neal.
Mr. Chairman, the question was asked, and I appreciate my colleague sharing his concern with issue 5, section 5. And I share with you, we had discussion in the community, and I shared with them that that was a concern amongst our Jewish brothers and sisters as well. But this is not my resolution. This is a resolution coming from the Palestinian community and the community at large, because there were members that aren't from the Palestinian community that participated in this as well. And we have done this, so outside of section 5, I don't think any of us have a problem where it says the city of Akron urges all to abide by international law. If we amend section 5, I want to know so that we can move forward. Is there any other part of this resolution that members have a problem with? Okay, Mr. Chairman, this is why I do not have confidence in taking a week. And if you allow me, please, to be just blunt. I hope that the Palestinian community is not being punished because of the hatred that you and some of my colleagues have for me.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right
No. It's been published in it's been published in the paper.
We have a motion.
Excuse me. I have the mic.
We have a motion.
I have the mic, Mr. Chairman.
We had a motion.
I have the mic, and my 5 minutes aren't up.
Is there a second?
I have the mic, and my 5 minutes are not up. I have the mic, and my 5 minutes are not up.
I'm sorry, I stopped the timer when you had told him his time was, you said there was a motion.
You got another 5 minutes.
So this is the point, and I'm going to use this. This is a simple example. This council passed a resolution to change the name of Lawton Street Community Center to the Judge James R. Williams Community Center. That was a year and a half ago. No, it's not off subject. It shows, again, how this council addresses certain issues depending on who it is. And I hope you're not penalizing this community because of...
It didn't come, I didn't say that. That was something
No,
that
I'm
came from
saying
you.
it.
I know you
I'm
are.
saying it. I'm saying it,
I'm fully aware of that.
you know? There's multiple examples I can use. Multiple examples I can use of this council. This right here, do you understand? We're talking about every minute lives are being lost. So I asked a very simple question. It's one that anybody can answer. Outside of Section 5, because we could amend Section 5 this evening. Outside of Section 5, what else do you have a concern with?
Okay.
So that it can be addressed.
My response is, I want to take a week with it.
And I can't have an answer to a question, Mr. Chairman,
That
so
is
that I
my-
can work with the
That
members
is
of the
my
community.
answer, is I want a week with it. That's my answer. I don't know how else to say it. I'd like a week with this.
My good Christian brother, I appreciate you.
Shamish, did you have something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to just be clear on the record with respect,
Understood.
if I can. There are 6 people in the audience who came. I've spoken with 2 of them. I invited one of them, but I was clear that people would not be able to speak at the committee meeting. But with respect, there's 6 members of our community who took time out of their day. I believe some of them took time off work in order to be here. I do believe it would be the right thing to do to give them some time to speak in front of the body that represents.
I'll just reiterate. We're going to take a week with this. We're going to hear from everybody next week. I'm sorry that folks were invited down here today with the thought that they were going to be able to speak at this committee today. That didn't come from me.
So will people be able to speak at the committee meeting next week?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I'm saying we would like 1 week, and then, I hope we have 3 times as many folks next week.
We might have more than 3
Yeah,
times.
well, you may have more than 3,
Here.
but,
All right, I want my objection on that to be on the record.
okay, very good. Duly noted.
Consent agenda is my
So-
I've recommended referring the
We have a motion for consent. Is,
I'm sorry, the motion
I'm
was
sorry,
to refer.
motion to refer. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to refer. There's been a second. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Okay, I didn't hear any nays.
I did not hear any nays either.
Okay, refer this item to next week. And if we have nothing else to come before us, we are dismissed.
Our next committee today is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Mosley, Kamer, Holland, Lombardo, and McKittrick. Looks like we do have all committee members present except for Councilman Kamer. Whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. If we could just keep it moving. If we could call public service to order, can I get a motion and approval of our previous meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. We have one piece coming before us. It's an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or as designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into an amatory agreement or agreements with Waste Management of Ohio, Inc. for waste disposal professional services in the Sanitation Services Division of the Public Works Bureau in the Department of Public Service and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lotto?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of committee. This is a short-term extension to the existing waste management agreement. They had a 25-year agreement. This is a 3-year agreement, and our expectation on this short-term extension is to work on a long-term agreement, at least another 25 years after this 3 years is up. And it's our goal of both parties to relocate the transfer station from Fountain Street to a new location. We did tour a new state-of-the-art facility up in Oakwood Village, just north of us a little bit. They built a brand new one right outside this downtown of Indianapolis. So what we're looking at is to relocate, but this 3-year extension will allow them to find a piece of property that meets all the EPA regulations, that's somewhere in close proximity, so our sanitation trucks don't have to travel too far, because right now, being in the center of town, it's actually logistically good for the trucks, but it's not good for the neighborhood, and we've all known that. So there is a project that ODOT is working on to make Route 8 safer. I think most of us have got on at Akron U and try to go south, and you're trying to get over. So that new project will be a flyover ramp down the road that would actually close Beacon Street, which would kind of landlock this Fountain Street property. So that's just another reason that this facility be relocated. So, but this extension is basically just a 3-year extension that we have the opportunity to cancel. We have no desire to do that in the 3 years. That we're going to work with them to relocate this facility.
Okay. Thank you for that context, Mr. Luttle. I think that's important to mention, especially for the residents. This is something that has went on far beyond most of us around the horseshoe trying to get waste management relocated. It was the #1 issue when I came into city council almost 10 years ago. And to know that we are finally here, knowing that they will be relocated outside of a residential footprint, I think the residents are appreciative of that. I do hope that after the 3 years that there is a location and that it is built, because I know sometime over 25 years ago they were supposed to move and it never happened. So this gives me some hope, knowing that this is only a 3-year extension, and that there is a proposed agreement on their relocation. So thank you for that. And I wish Emily was here to thank her as well, because she worked diligently with the residents in the Middlebury footprint. Zach Cole had a project that he was working on up there. He full paused on his project as well, with us all waiting for waste management to find a new home, which we know we need their services, but we also need to make sure that those residents live in a healthy community. So thank you. Councilwoman Holland.
Madam Chair, if I could just add one thing while I have
Yes.
this thought. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Holland. I just wanted to say that not only this administration, but the next administration, when the new mayor gets in there, Mayor Malik, I guess I could call him now, we will keep you updated, you know. So when there is property, it'll come through this council if we own it to sell it to them, or conditional use, that type of thing. But there again, they'll have to meet all those regulations. Then if once the design of the new building comes in, we will update this council on that progression. We will keep you up to date on this project, I promise.
I appreciate that. And although I won't be around that horseshoe, I will hold you to that, and I will show up if it doesn't happen. Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Luttle. I just want to make sure I heard you right, because I share the concerns that Councilwoman Mosley just articulated. There is the option of stepping away from this contract, even though we're extending it today.
We could in the next 3 years. There's always that option in this type of an agreement.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that this is actually clear within the agreement, that we can do that if these terms are not met.
But our goal is to work with them to get a new facility, because the option of driving this refuge all the way down to a landfill below Canton is not a viable option, obviously.
Understood.
Yes.
Understood. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Are there any other questions or concerns from this body?
Madam Chair,
Seeing
Councilman
none.
Malik has his hand raised.
Okay, Councilman Mallett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Luddle. I just want to reiterate what Mr. Luddle said, which is that, I appreciate the work that's been done by the administration in regards to trying to find a solution with waste management. This is something that, as many of us know, has been going on for more than 2 decades. And, in talking with some of the residents over there on Betty Street, they certainly feel, and I think feel fairly, that they have experienced negative health effects because of the presence of this facility. And so I see, a tremendous sense of urgency in finding a resolution to this. I'm committed to finding a resolution to this, and I do really appreciate the work done by the Service Department and by Ms. Collins previously to kind of hold Waste Management's feet to the fire on this.
And with that, I know that we have already passed the deadline to move forward with this, so I am looking for a motion for suspension of the rules.
Motion to suspend with a favorable report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Seeing none, ayes have it. We have nothing else coming before us for public service, so we are adjourned.
Our next committee today is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Mosley, Lombardo, Malik, and McKittrick. If we can give everyone just a moment here before we begin. Councilman Kamer is absent, so Councilwoman Mosley will be chairing. Thank you. Okay, we are ready for the public safety meeting whenever you are, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. If I could call Public Safety Committee to order, and if I could get a motion for approval of our previous meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. We have 2 pieces coming before us. The first one is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a 5-year renewal contract or contracts with Flock Group, Inc. for hardware and software services for vehicle recognition technologies and declaring an emergency. Is that Deputy Mayor Tucker and Captain McCosey?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Today, we would like to get a 5-year renewal on this Flock program to lock in the pricing with today's pricing. And it's something where it has been very effective for our police department when it comes to our community policing. And I'd like to turn it over to Captain McCosey for any specific questions that you may have.
All right, Captain McCosey.
I believe the deputy mayor covered it pretty well. It's a 5-year agreement to renew. The cost of them has not changed since we began, and this will keep that pricing right there where it is. To me, this is important because the long-term, we're beating price increases here, and this is going to help us stabilize our budget. So this gives us the opportunity to keep going with proven technology that we know works and that has had some really nice successes in our community and kept it safer.
Okay, any questions from committee members? Sarah, is anyone on that side that I'm not seeing over here?
I don't see any hands raised here in chambers, Madam Chair. Oh, I do now. I'm sorry. Councilman Malik has his hand raised.
Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Captain Makosi. The question that I have, it appears that this is grant funded for the first 2 years, and then the remaining 3 years, it's open-ended. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, sir. When we first started out with this, we actually used ARPA funding as part of the OID project at the Akron U area. And then we picked it up from there with the OCJS ARPA Law Enforcement Violence Prevention Grant. So we're paying for the first 2 years on that grant. And then after that, we pick it up with issue 4.
Okay, so it's issue 4 for the final 3 years.
We will budget the following 3 years into our issue 4 allocation, yes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion for suspension of the rules?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. Next piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor as designee to apply for and if awarded, accept and expend fiscal year 2023-2024 Quick Response Team QRT grant funding for the Ohio Attorney General's Office Law Enforcement Diversion Program and declaring an emergency. Captain McCosey or Chief Tucker?
All right, thank you. Again, this is for our QRT program. It's a continuation grant to continue the services that we're currently providing. It provides a clinician as well as a police officer and a paramedic to go out and try to help our overdose victims to get into treatment so that we can help them to recover and start to live productive lives. It's something that we think has been fairly effective, and that I think, you know, the fact that we can actually support this with grant money is a fantastic thing. So for any specific questions, again, I'll turn it over to Captain McCosey.
Okay, thank you. Captain McCosey, would you like to add to that?
Again, I believe the deputy mayor covered it pretty well. This is for a 1-year period, so it's going to cover our activities just for 1 year. And again, we were awarded in the interim before we could get here for the full approval. So we've been very fortunate to have this program and to be able to get people to treatment.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions from committee members? Is there anyone on that side, Sarah? No?
No hands here in chambers, Madam Chair.
Okay, if I could get a motion for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Quickly before I adjourn, Captain McCosey, I'm not sure if it would fall on you or someone else maybe in the radio room as far as the towing district goes. But if we could get an update next week, I will reach out to Councilman Kamer and let him know that I made this request. But if we could get an update on how the towing district is working and with Greg's Towing now being off the district and they've sold and closed. If we could get an update next week, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I will get a hold of the tow review board and we'll put something together to inform you on where we're at.
Okay, thank you so much. Seeing we have nothing else coming before us, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Our next committee today is the Public Utilities and Green Committee. Those committee members are Freeman, McKittrick, Connor, Mosley, and Holland. If we can give everyone just a minute here.
Oh, goodness.
All right, I'd like to call the Public Utilities and Green Committee meeting to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Freeman.
Here.
McKittrick.
Here.
Connor. Mosley.
Here.
And Holland.
Here.
We have all committee members present except for Councilwoman Connor.
All right, and could I have a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 All right, very good. All right, I'd like to welcome the administration here, and I think we have something to talk about as far as water rates go, so we're all ears.
A few things. First of all, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I will avert my eyes to the screen and to you because there's multiple audiences to talk to at the same time. But I just kind of wanted to give you an overview of how we necessarily arrived at this point. It's been a significant study over the last couple of years, at least, on water rates. And to kind of give you a picture, and a lot of you are aware, some 100+ years ago, they made a really good decision to not use Summit Lake anymore, but unfortunately we had to go about 26 miles northeast to find a water supply that was available and then to get it here. And that takes some logistics, but it's lasted like well over 100 years. It was a really good decision to do that, but there's a lot of infrastructure to do that. And if you fast forward all the way through Akron's growth, its industry, and we get to a particular point, we enter into a consent decree. Now, this is the sewer side on that, but we spent a significant amount of money, as you all well, because we've gotten those complaints about sewer rates and water rates and where they are. But we put a significant amount of money to be able to comply with that consent decree, but that comes at a cost. We weren't able to necessarily invest in the water infrastructure as much as we would have liked, at least over the last 8 years and probably over the last 20. And so as we get to that, and Jeff will get to a lot of the specifics about, affecting residential rates, affecting commercial rates. But we looked at a lot of different models to say, number one, how are we going to make it more equitable? And how are we going to put money into a program if people can't afford some of these things and being able to do it, I think, the right way. And so as we come to this is the presentation about where water rates are going. There is an increase. To me, it's a somewhat modest, even though I think and nobody wants to pay more for things, but this is that next investment over at least the next, I'm going to say 20 years, Jeff, on a lot of that water infrastructure. When you have the number of mains and the number of water lines that are that old, like over 75 years old, and they can give you a breakdown of where the water main breaks are. This is all kind of data driven of where it goes, but replacing that infrastructure over the next 20 years, it is not insignificant. It is hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to do it, but I think it's that next 100-year investment to make sure in 100 years somebody says, hey, listen, they made a pretty good investment to be able to do that. And we've seen instances across the country of whether it's Sebring or Flint or Jackson, Mississippi or wherever where they've run into water, whether you have drought issues or flooding issues. We have a pretty safe, reliable, and I don't want to jinx myself on this, but our water system is very reliable. And to that end, we've optimized as much of the resources as we can to get it to this point, but we need to invest in it. And this is that program to invest in, and I'll turn it over to Chris and Jeff Bernowski, but I appreciate and I'm more than happy to take questions at that point too, but thank you for giving us the time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add to that, before I turn it over to Jeff to really get down to the nuts and bolts of this, is we've looked over the last 8 years of different ways how to optimize our system, as the mayor said. We partnered with Akron U, and some of you may have heard of that, where we optimized some of our chemicals, okay? We lowered our chemical cost almost by $1 million a year by being able to optimize on how we're treating our water to still provide a high quality product. Well, a thing called COVID hit, and guess what? Our chemical cost doubled. We're spending up to $6 million a year, where we were spending 15 years ago, we were spending $2 million, a year on chemicals. That's just one of the examples. So we have done some things, and because of what's happened in sewer, people naturally are going to conserve. You're not going to water your lawn as much. You're not going to wash your car as much. You're going to get new appliances. They wear out. And a washing machine that was 30 years old probably uses 35 gallons, where today it probably uses 14. A toilet used to be 7 gallons, now it's 1.5, households have gotten smaller. So what happens is when you use less water, then the consumption drops, and we're pumping half of what we pumped in 1969, so you're not using as much water. To that effect, if you look at every other utility bill you have, if you look at gas, you look at electric, you look at your cable or whatever you pay for internet, it's a flat fee. They get their money, and that's what we unfortunately had to do with this $9 charge, to put it right back into the infrastructure. We didn't want to, we looked at this different ways, tied to projects, and the mayor's gone after money, whether it was ARPA or money from the state. We got $5 million one shot to do lead services. Then we got another $5 million. Then we got low interest loans. And we're still lobbying to get those low interest loans, 45 years. I mean, I don't know if there's any more 0%, but we're going to go after low interest loans, principal forgiveness, and get some of these projects done. So unfortunately, it's come to a time, and not to throw our gas company under the bus, but I mean, your minimum charge is $43 a month, and they want to raise it another $13. And we're going to lobby against that. We think that's too high to our customers. So this $9 charge and then the 33 cents per unit of water, our average household probably uses 4. That's $1.20 a month plus the 9. So it's about a $10 a month charge that's going to be on your water bill. Commercial's a little bit different, but most of our accounts are, the residential. So we've talked about the meters project. This has nothing to do with the meters project. This is totally separate, but people are going to be able to watch their usage a lot closer than they did. It's not going to be a once a month. You have those high spiking bills. That will obviously help. So we're going to leverage every piece of technology that we have and also get some of these projects done. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and he's going to talk about some of this infrastructure, the needs, and how we're going to handle them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Bernowski. I am the Akron Water Supply Bureau Manager, representing over 140 Akron water employees that 24/7, 365 are dedicated to maintain this 100-year-old system that we operate. I appreciate the words of the mayor with regards to the investment that was made 100+ years ago. The citizens of Akron, the administrations, the council in these chambers decided that we were going to own a water system that was public. We purchased it from a private company, the Akron Water Works Company, and from that day forward, mayors, councils, administration, and most importantly, our customer base has been investing in that infrastructure ever since. And so I truly appreciate the fact that we are making that same investment now and literally looking at the next 100 years and planning the next 100 years to make it prosperous and sustainable for that period. So next slide, Stephanie. And thank you to Stephanie Marsh as well, who's been a big part of helping organize this. So currently, we have a water system that is operating very well from the perspective of providing good, clean drinking water. It breaks, though. And if you've recognized the number of boil water advisories that seem to be coming out more and more often, it's our responsibility to fix those breaks, issue advisories to make sure the public's protected. And so we want to try and address those situations. We want to try and address the aging infrastructure. You can see almost 10,000 repairs have been made in the last 5 years alone. All right, the level of effort to deal with that has been immense. As part of this existing program, currently we have a one-time debt relief program with Akron Cares. With the new program we are going to release for affordability, that's going to create a whole new program for drinking water that's never existed before in the past. There's been discounts on the sewer side, on the refuse side, but there's never been an opportunity for affordability programs on drinking water, and we're pleased to announce that today. Next slide, thank you. So as you can see here on the left side of the screen, all right, that represents the current 2023 billing rate structure for water. Now, once again, I want to repeat, this is for water. When you get, people like to say the water bill, there's 3 components to that. There's refuse, there's wastewater, and there's water. We're talking about water, which makes up a small percentage of the total bill. Currently, that rate structure is what they call a declining block rate structure. It has a fixed billing charge of $4 for water. Then for your first 30 HCF is ultimately 100 cubic feet, which represents 748 gallons. So the point of that is, for the first 30 HCF, most customers are 3, 4, 5 HCF a month. They're paying $2.73. Then there was a discount after 30, all right, of about 10%, and then after 5,000, you got a 50% discount. That's changing. With the existing program, there's only 10% of our revenue is fixed. So we have this very variable portion of our revenue stream that makes it very hard, quite honestly, to make investments in the future when things like COVID hit and use goes down, when customers' uses go down, for whatever the case may be, the economy, conservation, all of those things cause the use to go down, and it really struggles for us to make long-term investments. So we're looking to change that to what the industry standard is, 30%. So we're also looking to change the declining block rate structure to eliminate the discounts that are available to those larger users. Next slide, please. When making this decision, there were 3 options essentially available to us, presented to us by our consultant, Ref Tellis, who's done a number of rate studies across the nation as well as for Akron. And we considered each of those rate structures. In some cases, there's minimum charges based on meters. In others, there's minimum charges based on use. So, you know, everybody gets a certain number of HCF free, and then over those HCF you start, and then you adjust tiers, and then there's class-based rates. But we decided, after looking at this very closely, that the simplest change to the current structure that would provide some revenue stability and rate equity is to go with this option number 1. Next slide, please. So option number 1 has a focus on this fixed infrastructure charge that Chris spoke to, all right? For 1-inch and smaller meter sizes, which represents all of our single-family residential accounts, we are applying a $9 infrastructure fee. This $9 is in addition to the $4 billing fee. So the minimum charge is $13 for the single-family residential. Beyond that, your larger meters, 1.5 up to 12 inches, will pay a larger monthly fee based on the meter size. And these calculations that you see here essentially represents the demand on the system. So if you ask for higher demand because you have a larger meter, then you're going to be expected to pay a higher portion of those infrastructure charges going forward. In addition to these infrastructure fixed fees, we are also revising the blocks to eliminate that 10% Block 2 discount. This would be on the right side of the screen. And so block number 1 and block number 2 are going to be at the exact same rate at $3.06 per HCF. All right, and then the block 3 rate will still, the current block 3 rate, which will ultimately become block 2, is going to be at $1.53 and would only be available for the largest users at 5,000 HCF a month or greater. Next slide, please. This slide represents just where generally customers are billed on a monthly basis, okay? So as it says there, 50% of residential water bills are for 3 HCF per month or less. 3 HCF, 50% of our customer base is at 3 HCF a month or less. So currently, it's $273 times 3, almost $9, plus a $4 fixed fee. 50% of our customers are paying less than $13 a month. That's not sustainable for us going forward. In order to have that investment, we need to look at trying to increase those fixed costs in order to represent the investment in the infrastructure in the future. Now, in addition to that, next slide, please. When we look at our larger non-residential, you can see that there's still a lot of low usage even on the non-residential side, all right? But there's 85% of our total customers are billed at 30 HCF or higher. So 85% of the water in which is consumed is represented by 15% here. So the point is that there's a lot of use in those 30 HCF and above, and that's where we see the increase in those consumption charges benefiting from infrastructure as well as those fixed fees. Next slide, please. So as Chris had mentioned, the average water customer's bill is going to go up about $10 to $12 a month, and primarily that's from that $9 infrastructure fee and then the increase of 33 cents over and above the existing $2.73, which represents about 12% increase over the existing. Next slide. This is a great slide that kind of represents where we stand right now. Of all of the comparable water utilities in the state of Ohio, and I'm talking drinking water, we are lowest. Akron Water, and we're, quite honestly, we're proud to have been able to sustain as long as we've had, recognizing the fact that sewer rates were a large burden dating back to 2015. Okay, but now we're at the point where we need to start increasing that revenue, keep up with inflation, making these infrastructure investments. So with this slide, Akron Water is going to go from the $17.65 to $28.30, and we're going to be right there in the median average with respect to where Akron Water is. You can see on the overall, all right, Akron is second to last when you look at water and sewer combined. The only lower utility of utilities our size is Dayton right now, so everyone else is higher. Next slide, please. So this slide kind of gives you an idea of just the sample customer bills that are out there and ultimately where they are now versus where they will be. The top left corner represents typical residential. And so you can see, generally where that $9 is relative to the existing. The top right is the commercial, all right, and the increase related to commercial. And then the bottom left, which we're going to speak about on the next slide extensively, is the new Akron Water Bill Assistance Program. So you can see on this slide that once the Akron Water Bill Assistance Program goes into effect, all right, there's going to still be a slight increase for the smallest of customers, which is the 1 and the 3 HCF. But once you get over the 3 HCF, the Akron Water Bill Assistance Program is going to provide a discount to where the bill will actually be less after these increases rather than more. And then on the bottom right quadrant of the screen there, the industrial and how it just typically represents the 5,000 and above and how those rates are going up for those customers there. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So what is this Akron Water Bill Assistance Program? So anyone who is HEAP eligible through the state, which is typically an electric and gas assistance program that's used. We actually use it on our sewer side. Those customers will be eligible for the new Akron Water Bill Assistance Program. Anybody who is homestead eligible, all right, so that's something, a designation that the county provides, and that's something that Akron Sewer currently provides, as well as on the refuse side, there's a homestead discount. And then PIP is another affordability program as well. If you're eligible in any of those programs, you will receive an overall 40% discount across the entire bill. All right, it's going to include a 40% discount on the fixed billing charge, on the infrastructure charge, and on the consumption charge. So it's an overall 40% discount. The other huge part of this announcement is tenants will now be eligible. All right, historically, the city was not able to offer that program to tenants in this wastewater side, but we are, with this rate increase, able to do it on the drinking water side, which is really exciting. And we feel, based on census data, that there could be up to 19,000 accounts that would be eligible for this discount. So we really feel like this affordability program is going to really help those that are and really help those that are in need. In sewer right now, there's only currently 350 HEAP customers because it's owner eligibility only. So you can understand not many owners, people who own their own home, meet that income requirement. So we're going to expand that extensively, and currently there's about 75 homestead discounts on the both refuse and wastewater side. We'll be opening up applications for that on January 1st, 2024. Next slide, please. So this slide just quickly represents, the bottom black line there. Water rates have not gone up since 2012. Back in about 2016, 17, there was a small 25-cent increase to the billing fee from $3.75 to $4. So that's been the only additional revenue associated with the water bill that's come into water. And so you could see the flat black line at the bottom to 2023, and then the spike. All right, that spike up to $28.30 is intended to represent where we stand relative to the inflation over the last 11, 12 years now. And so you have the CPI that's represented there, the MCI represented there. You have other utilities, other water utilities in the nation represented there. So we ultimately are trying to catch up just simply to meet inflation with these rate increases, as can be seen on the graph there. So next, we're going to talk about the rate results and financial metrics. So, as Chris was mentioning, I'm very, very proud of the staff and our abilities from 2012 to present to keep costs down. We've done a host of different optimization projects. We've invested in a tremendous amount of technology to optimize the system, saving in chemical costs, improving performance. We have energy initiatives out there. There's just been a host of different improvements that we've done since that time. But when COVID hit and inflation hit, the costs have gone up dramatically. I can give you just a quick statistic. We were paying for chemicals in 2012 about $2 million, and today it's up over $6 million, and we have bids coming in soon, and we're hopeful that it doesn't go up much higher. So, just chemicals alone has been a huge increase over the last 11 years. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned earlier, the 100-year-old infrastructure. 100 years ago, they built the Akron water plant, they built the Lake Rockwell Dam, they built miles and miles of water main to get from Akron out to this small community in Portage County. This investment that they made is now at its service life. And it's now our turn to make that similar investment to make sure that this system is sustainable for the next generations to come. A lot of prosperity happened because of the Akron drinking water system, and we want that to continue into the future. And so as you see here on this list, Britton Road Reservoir will be one of our highest priorities. That was the initial reservoir constructed as part of the drinking water system, and it continues to be the primary drinking water storage reservoir. It's critically important. Water main replacement, we have almost 300 miles of water main out of 1,200 total that are over 100 years old, fronting customers' homes, fronting businesses, fronting industry, fronting hospitals, fronting schools. We need to get that corrected, and that's what this is going to do for us. Another commitment that we're going to make as part of this is we want to be lead service-free by 2027. All right, a massive effort in the last few years led by Mayor Horgan and Service Director Chris Luddle has been we are going to get these lead services removed. And this is following literally decades and decades of a commitment dating back to Dave Crandall in 1963, who said there shall not be another lead service put in, and we will remove them any chance we got. So just simply in the last 5 years, we've found $23 million in grants, in principal forgiveness, in ARPA funding, city and state ARPA funding to remove lead services. And we are going to continue with that over the next 3 years to remove the last 2,500 lead services, including galvanized lines that were once downstream of lead services. So I think that's a very exciting announcement, and there is not a single utility like Akron where we're going to be able to, well, they're going to be able to claim lead-free by 2027. It's the current administration and previous that is going to make this happen, which is just fantastic. So finally, redundant connections is shown on that list. It's very important, especially as we start making investments in the future, to make sure we have backups. It's as wastewater's been going through for the last 10 years, it's very difficult to operate a system while you're building a new one. All right, things as simple as we're replacing the roof at the water plant this morning, and we had to stop the roofers because they were starting to affect the operations of the plant. Like, it becomes complicated. It becomes complicated. And so we're looking at redundant connections to try and minimize those complications and have some backup if needed in certain sections of town if we have to take water mains down or make improvements at the plant in the future. So having that insurance policy is extremely valuable. So with that, I'll conclude and have any questions for us. Appreciate it.
A lot of information. Questions or comments? Mr. Fusco.
Just that I just know from just being around for a while how fortunate we are in terms of that investment you talked about 100 years ago and how it saw our city grow. And I sincerely believe that the JEDs and these agreements with our partners and being able to offer this water, that's this future here. And keeping it together for so long without an increase, especially whenever you compare it to the others out there, you guys have done a really good job. And I'd like to say that you're close to world class, to be honest with you. I mean, you guys have gotten so many awards over time. Our entire utility itself has gotten awards for the innovation that you all have brought and the job that you do. It's just you guys have done good work. It's unfortunate no one likes to talk about increases, but this is its time has come, and it's time for this generation, as you mentioned. Yeah. It's time for us to prepare for the future, and that's what this I see this as representing. Yeah. So I get it.
Questions or comments?
Tara, Sharon, and Linda.
Yes. Let me come to you, Tara, please.
Thank you, Chairman Freeman. This question is for the administration. How do you all plan on getting this message out to our residents? When I've been flooded with calls, text messages, concerned, and I know you talk about the 3 parts of the water bill, but our residents do not understand that. All they know is the water bills are going up, and they are concerned, especially right now. And I've got people sending me pictures of their bright yellow water bills because their water is getting ready to be turned off. And now they're being told that the water is going to go up again. And I know over time, we've understood that we have, our EPA charges, our trash, our water, but our residents don't see that. And I know the first thing they say is, well, it's going to be in a water bill. The residents, for the most part, all they see is the final number. A lot of them aren't looking at that breakdown to see that a lot of this is an EPA charge. And then we have well, what is this EPA charge for? We understand that our sewer system is old and antiquated, but many of the residents, they see the final charge. So my question to this administration and maybe the incoming administration, how do you plan on getting this out to residents where they're going to understand it? Because right now they do not, I don't want to say they don't understand it. All they see is the final number. And all they know is the bill is super high. When you have a family of two, and they're getting over a $200 water bill, and they're making minimum wage, that's what their reality is. So how and why are you going to get the message out? Thank you.
I think there's a number of ways. One, you're right. It's going to be a pretty good communication effort over the next at least 6 weeks, and even into into January and beyond. It's not going to be. We don't probably have all the answers to all those questions when it comes to that, because it's going to be an education experience. You're talking about ward meetings. You're talking about water bill insurance. You're talking about all of those different things to be able to communicate that message. And you're right. They see the final bill and they say, well, it's going to go up $10 a month. That's the important part. I mean, water hasn't gone up, and I know they see that. The important part, I think, too, is if they are in that particular situation, there is the Akron Cares program, but there is also that HEAP discount if they're eligible on that water side, which I think is it's monumental for us to be able to do that, because you still got to meet that commitment into doing that investment. They're not going to see the impact until February, so it is still. I mean, there's still a ways to go to be able to get that message out. But doing that, like I said, it's a number of fronts, and I don't think we can over-communicate enough to be able to do that. And there'll be a number of things that we're going to be rolling out over the next 6 weeks to be able to communicate, what your water bill is going to look like. And so, always willing to take suggestions when it comes to the communication side. And that's the thing about utilities. You want to turn them on, and you don't want to worry about them. It's up to us to worry about them. And that's where we're at now, is that we have to start to worry about these things when you got the number of breaks that we have. And so that's where we're at. But you're right on the communication side, and we plan on ramping up an effort, significant over the next 6 weeks and even into the first of the year.
Right. I appreciate that. My final thought is on the Akron Cares side. A lot of times, by the time the residents find out about Akron Cares, it's gone. So maybe that's something we need to think about going into 2024, about maybe funding that a little more robust so people can actually benefit from it. It's usually gone within a matter of days once it uploads for the beginning of the year. So something to think about, and doing some PSAs on social media, I think, would help as well. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thanks.
Ms. Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple things. One, with the homestead discount, will they have to apply for that, or will that come through automatically through the listing from the county? I know a lot of people already get the sewer one, so will it automatically get the water one, or will they have to reapply for that? And great news to see the reservoir. I mean, the reservoir's been a project on the books for a long time, so we look forward to renovating that, and also teaching people a lot about the background of actually where our water comes from. A lot of our residents just think you turn it on and like magic it appears. So we've been singing the song of water in this area for a long time, and I'm anxious to see us continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Mobian? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that they would customers that are currently getting the homestead discount are going to be expected to call in and request to be on the homestead. So you would call our utility business office in order to make that happen.
Okay.
And if they're currently eligible, it's just a phone call. So as the mayor said, we're willing to come to all your ward meetings. Just let us know. We'll get the word out. We are going to have a handout that's going to go in the water bill. We probably still have another 40,000 water meters to install. So as we're doing those, we may hand the customer, we'll have the installers give them the discount because they're at the house, and when they're doing that meter, they'll hand them that discount card, how to sign up. We've met with United Way. They're going to be another avenue to help us get this word out. So United Way is willing to help us get people signed up. So as the mayor said, this isn't going to hit to the January bill, and they won't receive it till February. So the more you can help us and we can help you to get this word out, we'll work together to let everybody know that it's coming and how to sign up for these programs.
I'm curious, and I'll come to Ms. Amobian. The article that the paper ran, accurate? Anything?
It was pretty accurate, yes.
Okay, good. Yes, thanks.
So the dollar amount is final. It will go up $10.
It's
There's no
roughly 10 to 12. It
negotiation.
just depends. You know, we have a number of we have a number of communities that are have Akron plus X, and I contacted all of the township administrators and the trustees and the mayors to say, listen, there's a water rate increase coming. This is how it's based on. Well, they do different things. Talmadge and Stowe are different than the other ones because of tax sharing. But yeah, it's a rough amount of between 10 and 12, and it's based on, you know, that infrastructure charge of going from 4 to 9 to be able to put into that, and based on your usage. But like Jeff said in the chart, most residential customers, and we're changing that to gallons as opposed to HCF. Gallons are just easier to recognize. So 1 HCF is 748. Most of our customers are falling in the 90% or falling below that, you know, on that 3 side. So it's a rough estimate. Unless, you know, you're filling a bunch of multiple pools and all these other things, that's when your rate would go, that's when your bill would go up, you know, even more, or if there's a leak. But even with these meters, I think that's the other investment in the infrastructure. It's a lot easier for you to monitor where your usage is coming and to be able to get alerts to say, listen, you went up by X, you know, Y, and so we can kind of investigate that and maybe help out a little bit sooner as opposed to waiting 2 weeks if they have a water problem. But yeah, it's a rough amount between $10 and $12 a month for most residential customers.
You know, my comment is certainly not reflective of all the hard work that's been done. I'm thankful that we're not a Flint, Michigan by any stretch of the imagination. So we've been blessed that way. And we know of all the work that's gone into our water system totally. It's just that so much is coming at the residents at the same time, an increase in your property taxes. I know that the increase we just voted to approve for DD, I think that doesn't kick in until next year, 2025. So you do have some relief there. And then the school system is talking about a levy passage, which probably wouldn't kick in for another year, maybe. I do understand the need. There's no question in my mind, but it's just so hard to get the message out that it's going to help the residents. Now, there are a lot of programs that come through the Community Action Council that people are eligible for. And I'm trying to remember, do these really somehow impact their water bill? I know it helps with the heat and some other things that they have to pay. I don't know about the water bill or not.
I'm fairly certain that we are using Community Action Network to be able to help with this also, and United Way. Anybody that has to be able to touch a customer to be able to help on those programs, Community Action has been involved too. And like I said, these are ongoing conversations to work this out. Like I said, we haven't raised water rates in 12 years. Or on that whole thing. That's a long time, and we're certainly. I'm very sensitive to the number of increases that have come down the pike over the last just year, and sensitive to that part of it too. But you know, the responsibility to be able to like I said, you want to be able to turn your water on and not worry about it. And you look at the number of breaks that we have, and we just took out the last wood water line. I don't know how long ago. Not that long. We said wood water lines down in Main Street. It's long past wood. I mean, these are. Yeah.
There's no question about anything you're saying, particularly when I hear that we only have 300 miles of a 1,200-mile problem that we've had for years left to do. So there are a lot of things that have gone right. So as we go out to talk to these communities, perhaps we can get representatives from all of those different groups to go out and talk about some of the assistance that they have available as well. And not only that, maybe we could continue to have meetings in the wards where people can sign up as opposed to just having like a one-time conversation, because that's what people need. They need some assistance in doing things. To hear about something and how to go about doing it are two different things. But no, I understand the need. I'm not questioning that. It's just that so much is coming at folks at the same time. So anyway, thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. Mr. Neal.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I was stepping in and out, so I may have missed something. I see the heat adjustments. This is the part I may have missed. Are those traditionally still just for homeowners? Or are we extending them to renters?
We are extending to renters from the water side. Just not on the sewer side.
Okay,
correct?
Mayor.
Yeah, just not on the sewer side, but on the water side for renters.
Okay, Mayor, if I commendable on that, I would like to ask that we please consider extending them on the sewer side. That's the bulk of the bill. I mean, Councilwoman Amobi mentioned it. I mean, we've got the increase in property tax, increase in water rates, and now we're not going to have these ARPA and CARES dollars to assist with rent assistance. The reality of the matter is, Akron's rents, if you really do your homework, are still under, for the most part, surrounding communities. But the reality is, when those rates come in, rents go up, and we're not going to have the safety nets to help some of these folks. If we just took the route of having those who qualify, the bill go to them, and still have, I understand why we have to put it on the landlord. I'm not saying take that away from the landlord, but we looked at a LEAP program. We would be able to help our residents build credit worthiness. We'd be able to help them with their better financial management of the overall bills by them being able to qualify for this program. If we don't allow them a credit on that sewer side, we might as well be prepared for a larger number of residents being locked out of a lot of the rentals because of the water bill.
Councilman, just to, and you may have missed this part, by extending this to renters, and let's say a family of 4 that uses 5 HCF, with the new discount, their bill for the water portion only will go down. So they will see a little bit of a decrease what they're paying today. Now, to speak of the sewer, we've obviously talked about sewer. And as you know, and the rest of the council knows, we have 2 things before the federal court right now. One, we want to eliminate a $200 million treatment facility at the end of the tunnel. The other is we just started the tunnel project on the north side, which is $250 million. So with that being said, this administration and the future administration has a commitment. We are not raising sewer rates in 2024. Now, that'll give us a year to see how many people sign up and how many we can get on this program to do another rate analysis, because if we have to do those projects, you know, how will that affect our customers, and how many people that do currently receive a discount, how that will affect the rate analysis. So moving forward, this is going to take some time, but we will look at that in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to echo particularly the question of Councilwoman Mosley about getting the word out. And I think to a lot of the points that have been made by the administration, I think a key focus of getting that word out will be the new water assistance program and making sure that people are signed up by every means, by Community Action, United Way, by every other means. And so that's going to be my priority. And if there are adjustments that are needed to be made in order to do that, if we're not seeing the level of sign up that we want to see, we'll devote further focus to that to make sure that happens. And also appreciate the point that Mr. Luddle made about the CSO litigation. And without knowing the final status of those 2 projects, it's difficult to say where we are with the sewer picture beyond 2024. So I think that's the responsible way to approach the sewer project for now.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Fusco?
Just very, very, very briefly. The majority of this obviously is the infrastructure piece. And it's really spelled out. However, though, I'm a believer that a picture is worth 1,000 words, if you will. And perhaps part of the communication strategy, just to pitch it out there, is, and I'm not sure, I think I know, but I don't want to say it out loud, so I'm going to ask. Number one, I think we all are aware of the reservoir, and there's pictures in here that help with regards to that. And I think I know the filter building treatment facility. If you could maybe explain that, and in the communication, maybe mention some of that. And then the redundancy connections. I want to hear what your explanation is for that, because again, I think it's going to help us if we actually show people what it looks like and what, the water, the wood and water lines.
Yeah, you're right, and that's part of that as we get at, whether it's in water bills or whether it's on social media or whether it's to however we're going to communicate. Listen, APUB is doing an excellent job of trying to get that word out now, but it goes a long way past a phone call. And we probably needs to be some more one-on-one contact to walk people through exactly what it is. And not that it's an issue, but like I said, we can't over-communicate enough. And we'll be doing that as much as we can, and I'm sure, even past the first of the year, it's gonna continue to be a challenge, because some people they don't want to pay attention yet until it affects them, and so it's going to be January, February, and people start to see that, and I no doubt in my mind that they'll be communicating as much as they can.
And I think we all know in the mid-'90s, we had, Jeff said 140 dedicated employees. We had another 125. So with technology optimization, we've reduced our workforce tremendously. And that goes all the way down to repairing a water main in the street. We used to have to excavate the hole, use wood sheeting. That was a whole crew. Now that crew is 4 or 5 people that go down, and we drop a box and we replace the water main. So and another thing, as you leave this chambers, go grab a drink of water, and that water you're drinking is off an 1881 water main out front here on High Street. So think about that.
Picture is worth 1,000 words. And one last question, and you may not know this, but after the 5 years or so within the calculations there, I don't even know if you measure them like this, but the effective age of our pipes, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, there's so many pieces, parts delivering that, but the pipe infrastructure, is there a way to say today the effective age is X, and then 5, 6, 7 years from now with regards to this hike, it's going to be X? I think that would help a little bit. So just
Had been part of one of the slides that we took out, because there's a certain percentage that's an average over X. The average age of the entire system is X. This will drive it down to X. And I think if we can give them those type of numbers, I think that would be beneficial too. Thanks.
It's like an appraiser term, the effective age, but same thing. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks again for everything, the whole team. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Oh, yes, Ms. Connor. You're muted.
Am I unmuted now?
You're good now.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Sorry. If we could get this application and help project into the hands of the school counselors, they're the ones that have the closest ties to some of our families. They see them on a regular basis. Maybe ask APS if we could do a little presentation at one of the counselors' monthly meetings, just to make sure that they're getting the correct information and can pass that along to our families, because they have a lot of close contact, especially with our most neediest families.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation and information. To be able to disseminate that in whatever way we can is most important. So thanks for everything you do, Rob. Mr. Ludlow, Mayor, thank you very, very much. All right, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, and second, okay. Thank you. We are adjourned, and I'm going to go straight into, if we could please, go straight into the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. If we could please have a roll call.
Freeman.
Here.
Amobian.
Here.
Malik.
Here.
Baylor.
Here.
Lombardo. All committee members are present.
All right, very good. We have 2 items today. The first item is an ordinance providing for the temporary appropriation for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Akron for the period of January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is what we refer to as our temporary ordinance as we go into 2024. Covers the first 3 months of operating expenses, and it will allow the next administration to have their say in the budget process as well. Typically, we take 1 quarter. So what we did is we took the first quarter of 2023 and just applied it for 2024. It's 50 million total for the general fund and about 200 million in totality. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
Very good. Questions, comments, Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to finance staff. One who was reviewing this ordinance might notice that it ends at section 55. Could you speak to the lack of language of section 56?
Yes, we have removed it from this piece of legislation.
And how are you planning to approach that going forward?
We will be taking anything over 50,000 to council.
Okay.
Thank you. Looking around, I do not see any other questions. I'm looking up on the board. No hands raised. What would be the pleasure in this?
Typically on these items, we take time. We just have to pass it by the end of the month.
Okay, I do have a comment here. Mr. Neal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the public's understanding and for council, if this is passed, and most of those, we used to get breakdowns, but now it's just lump sum per category. Some of these items, if an ordinance hasn't come in for something specifically, will still have to come before council, is that correct?
Yes.
Or if this is passed, this doesn't have to come before council again?
If there's not already a contract in place, it would still have to come before council.
Or if it's a new position that's created, would it still have to come before council?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Maybe I don't have my legislation in front of me. Is this the one that shows for each different department?
Yes.
I apologize if I'm missing it. So this shows for the administration, the judicial, the legislative, shows all.
Right.
For operating for all groups. Okay.
Yes, this is just the temporary, and it's broken down by wages and benefits. And it's just our 2023 operating budget and broken down into 1 quarter to allow the budget process to continue into 2024.
Okay, so the incoming council, if it's a new position, maybe they have an opportunity to review it and vote on it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are we asking to refer this consent agenda? What are we asking for, Mr. Chair?
Is that a motion, please?
I'm trying to figure out which should I do, consent agenda or?
If we refer a week?
Yeah, that's fine.
So looking.
So moved.
Okay, we had a motion to refer. Second, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any questions, please refer them to Mr. Wheeler this week. Okay, thank you. Let's see, next is a resolution urging the City of Akron to reallocate COVID-19 funds from restaurants to Forever Our Children's shower bus and declaring an emergency. And I think this is probably Mr. Neal's resolution. Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. In trying to seek funding for Forever Our Children, since the administration has done a lot on their end, and they did not see fit redirecting any of the ARPA dollars or anything that's left in their budget, sought so that we can assist them to get over the hump, that we look at council looking at its budget to help fill that gap. Now, I'd asked the question, where do we stand with COVID relief dollars to restaurants, we never really got an update on what restaurants were served or how much was given to each restaurant. I think we started out with $150,000. I don't know if there's anybody in the chambers that can answer that question for us, because if there's dollars left, this resolution asks that we look at redirecting those dollars. And I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not so sure that we're prepared to, say exactly what's remaining in that account, but we can definitely get that by this evening's meeting. But over the past year, Councilman Fusco and council staff have worked really hard to try to get dollars out to restaurants here locally in Akron. And we did meet some challenges. And there are funds remaining. We've had conversations about 5 months ago with Guidehouse about how we could revamp the program and reallocate those dollars. And what has been vetted and approved by Guidehouse was to expand the Ring doorbell camera program. We did do a pilot program in 3, 4, and 5, which was extremely successful. One of the things that we kept hearing is, when can people all across the city have access to the program? Council members have also asked, why individuals from our wards cannot receive the Ring doorbell camera. So we thought that that might be a good way to reallocate those funds by expanding the Ring doorbell camera to a citywide program. So again, those were discussions that we have been working with over the past 5 months with Guidehouse. Just so that Councilman Mill does know, I did ask Guidehouse if in fact they would approve us giving some funds to the shower bus, and I have not heard back as of yet. So that's just an update in terms of where we are with the COVID-19 funds that were originally allocated for restaurants here in Akron.
Mr. Lombardo, you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought I saw. Okay, very good. Who do we? Okay, Mr. McKittrick.
Okay.
Just real quick, that after hearing President of the Council talking about the aspect of the Ring cameras, I can attest that I have had numerous of my residents in Ward 6 request the possibility of that. They've expressed how they feel it would be a benefit to the neighborhoods, and so that would be great if that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming back, am I missing anyone? See Mr. Neal. It's the only hand I see at this time. Mr. Neal.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just wanted to speak to the point. Want everyone to remember why these dollars came into our community: because of poverty and housing instability. Poverty and housing instability. I mean, I appreciate Guidehouse guidance, but if and when an audit is done with these dollars, Guidehouse is not going to be held accountable on how we spend these dollars. The council and administration will be. Here's an opportunity for us to address the need. Now, there are other items of which we can find dollars to address these different needs. And I guess that will determine, we'll be able to speak it more in depth, and I'll wait till we find out what's left from these restaurant COVID dollars before I identify other areas where we could find funding. I just want to share, appreciate what Guidehouse may have been able to share, but please let us understand, it's pretty much like when you go get tax advice. Doesn't matter what your tax attorney tells you, you're the one that's held accountable. As council, Guidehouse can give us, but we are the ones who have oversight of the budget, we're the ones that will be held accountable on how those dollars are eventually spent. So look forward to this evening when we get the answer on where we sit with the COVID dollars that are left from being expensed with restaurants, so that we can determine if there's enough to take care of both needs or just one of them.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Any other questions or comments? I don't know, Ms. Somerville did she indicate she was going to have an answer this evening, or? Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Have a motion to refer?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
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 Okay, very good. Thank you. And we are adjourned, if we could please, at 3:56. Thank you.
That is the final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet at 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.